Welcome to another edition of Len's Burning Bush. I am Len Harvey. Before I bring on my guest for the week, I want to talk about what's really burning my bush this week. So we've been working from home, it seems like forever. It's been at least since March, April of last year, using Zoom, WebEx, Microsoft Team meetings, all of these things. So you would think by now people would understand how to use these products. But no, that is not the case. Those company engineers have done a great job coming up with all these tools, but what they didn't account for a year into the pandemic is they didn't account for human error. Yes, there isn't a day that doesn't go by that I don't have to say, you're on mute, you need to get off mute, yes, get off mute. I mean, this is an ongoing thing. You spend 10 minutes at least on each other trying to fix the audio. And I kid you not, before this podcast, we had an issue getting the audio together. So it happens to everybody, but someone ultimately will have their speaker turned up. We get feedback. We hear loud noises from someone who actually should be on mute. Oh, goodness gracious. Can we get back to in-person soon? Get the vaccines. Let's have more meetings than ever in person after this, because I never thought I would say this, but we need to step away from the computer. Yes, step away from the computer, back to traveling again. With that being said, it's time to bring on my guest for the week. She is a longtime veteran of New York City radio. And when I say long time, she actually started when she was 5. Let's welcome Christina Lang to Len's Burning Bush.
I do feel that way because at that time, there was no technology, if you really think about it. But Len, they're getting pictures from Mars.
Yes.
And we can't work GarageBand.
No.
What is the deal?
I know.
I don't understand why I have a delay.
Yeah.
And from Mars, it's perfect.
I get it. It is really weird how we can sit here and you know, they have all these technology, all these tools, and it just doesn't work when we need it to work. Like, everything usually works okay, but today, for whatever reason, we had technical difficulties before the show, and I got to talk to John. It was all good. We made it through. But I got to be honest, it's frustrating because I work with, you know, Mac is a wonderful company. I don't want to say anything bad about them. I've got a MacBook, and I'm, you know, trying to get on, and the computer just decides it's gonna reboot and do whatever, and I lose all sound from the whole computer. It's all sound. I could not hear anything. John was talking. It was like the whole thing I was bitching about on the opening.
Yes.
He was on mute, but he wasn't. It was the fact I had no audio. I could not hear a thing.
So when you say that I started when I was 5, the funny part is, at the time, we were still using reel-to-reel tape.
Yes.
Okay? I can use a razor blade like nobody's business, but I have never yet tried to digitally edit something. I don't know shortcut machines. I know nothing. And speaking of that, when I started, I'll give you a quick rundown. I worked in New York City in the World Trade Center, and then we couldn't work in the World Trade Center anymore, obviously. And when we moved out, we moved into a different studio. My work hours changed from the afternoon drive time to the morning drive time. And the jock on the #1 rated radio station in New York City said to me, I don't want you coming into New York City at 4:30 in the morning. At the time, I had a son who was 5 years old, and he said, so we'll set you up at home. And I think, you know, twisting my arm actually twisted off at that time. I'm like, yeah, no worries. Yeah, we can do this. So we set up a studio in my basement, and at that time, we used the technology. It was called ISDN.
Yep.
So it was digital voice on a computer line. I don't know how it did it. It flipped it. It did something. However, even though it was used for so long, we actually called it, I still don't know. Because it was every time you needed some maintenance on the line, you would call a phone company, the Verizon, who supported the actual line, and they're like, I don't know what an ISDN is. I'm like, how could you still not know how to work this technology? So that's where it started, and that was what afforded me the ability to work from home, was the ISDN line. However, think of this. You had to pay for every phone call, like a long-distance phone call. So if I went on the air on a New York City radio station, being in New Jersey, and I was on for a 10-minute clip or, a break that we were talking before music or before commercials, I would have to pay the phone bill, long distance, for 10 minutes. So there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of minutes built up in the course of a month. But at the time, and I have to be honest, Len, it was still cheaper than a babysitter and gas.
Oh, yeah.
So it worked out fine. I was fine with all of it. I was sitting home. I had 3 kids that I was able to raise being in my own house. And they all went on the air, by the way, once and only once. Because after that, I think I lost it on each one when it happened. It never happened again. So we were all good.
Well, now you have, again, you were a trendsetter. We all know that. And, one of the things that's kind of funny, and a couple of people I've talked to since, you were coming on. So over Facebook, Karen said that he was one that you meant or helped. But I remember, so this is funny, you were on, you might have been on WFAN or whatever the stations you were on, and, Christina Lang with traffic, right? So when I first came to Metro in 1998, you were there, and I was like, oh my God, there's Christina Lang.
Isn't that funny?
It was like, and you couldn't have been nicer, and everybody says the same thing. Jezebel Montero, who was a guest on here a couple of weeks ago, talked about the fact the time she went to Hoboken to see your brother's band. So she wanted me to bring that up. But
I'm glad that she did. That is a memory that I will never forget. We had a great time. Just great.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was very lucky to have amazing coworkers my whole life. And now my coworker is my refrigerator. Now, I'm not the only one that's like that anymore. I think that most people now, because of the pandemic, can understand how Amana is like your best friend. Because every 2 minutes you're opening that refrigerator door. So I don't have fun coworkers anymore, but because you are at home and you're alone. But I had a great time while working in New York City. I really did.
Yeah, it was tremendous. We had such a great time there. I mean, Heather and just everybody that worked, and John, and we talked about the arena football days with John, and we would go. Tina Servasio was on. I had her on.
Sure.
We talked about it. We talked about the fact that we would go to cities and just great parties the arena football had. But it was so good. And now, the working from home is a little bit different. Now you're seeing kids walk into the scene and everybody's okay with it. I'm not okay with it. Am I the only one that's miserable get your kid out of the scene? I mean, can we put him? I mean, I must be the most miserable human being in the face of the earth, because if my kids come anywhere near when I'm on a call, I get like, get out of here. Get.
Well,
yeah.
Thus the story I told that all of my children went on the air once and only once.
Exactly.
Because after that, they knew they were not coming near me when I was working.
No, exactly. And I think that, I think we tolerate a lot more, and everything's like, we try. And I was talking to John off the air here. We were talking about trying to make things normal when they're not. And it's like, you know what? Let's just admit that it sucks and let's move on. Why do we have to make it normal? It's not normal. Right?
It is
We're
not.
never going to, I don't know if I'll get back on the road anytime soon. I've got to deal with these team meetings and Zoom calls.
Sure.
And you're sitting there for 6-7 hours in a day, and your eyes you're ready to take them out with a pickaxe.
Yeah.
I don't like it. And I know it's such a great thing that you can work from home. Like the technology
it's
allows for it. And we do, it's a blessing to have it. But when it works, it doesn't always work. Computers are a wonderful thing until they stop working like a few minutes before this episode. It just stops working.
And you're going to laugh because I am I call myself very analog. I only got a smartphone in the beginning of the pandemic. I never had one before. I had a flip phone. I had a car that had 318,000 miles on it. I absolutely love the old. The new to me was too much to learn and to deal with, and I had other things going on, and I was like, you know what? I'm fine with the old. I don't really need the new. But there are so many people that are so dependent on the technology and the computers and all of the above. I'm hoping I never become that, but it does happen.
We had a week of internet that was going in and out.
Yeah.
And it was due to the fact that, they came out from the cable company to try to fix it, and they couldn't fix it. And I'm sitting there, I knew it wasn't the router. It had to be something coming in from the modem. And we were going through, and I called them back. They came back on the third time. They replaced the modem. But I kid you not, in that in that week's time, it was like the scene from Airplane where they're out of coffee. And you remember that scene? Well, the internet's down, and the kids would all come out of their rooms because they never come out of their rooms, right? Until the internet's down. Dad, the internet's down. No kidding. Don't you think I work from home? Don't you think I would notice that the internet's down? Do you think I'd like this? But it's just like, Dad, the internet's down. I can't stand it. It's just the. Oh,
I
man.
just wish there was an analog backup for every human being. I mean, I still have the phone on my wall in the kitchen.
Oh, wow.
It still rings. I still answer a phone on my wall in the kitchen.
You know, that's crazy because we used to do that and we didn't know who it was. Do you remember that? We didn't know who it was. It was kind of scary, but we got through it. We got through it. It was okay. We can answer the phone. Now you got caller ID and now it'll say spam caller. Right. Like, it's like, oh, okay, it knows the guy's an idiot on the other end of the line or trying to sell you a warranty that you don't need or whatever with the car warranty. I like to play around with those people. The tax people, and they start talking. It's like, so you're in Holtzville, New York, right? So like, they don't even know what that is.
Right, exactly. It's great stuff. Everyone plays with it.
It's crazy. But, you know, again, technology is good when it, you know, I know my mother, I have constant battles with the iPhone. She can never get into her bank. She can never, I mean, God bless her. She can never get in. I will set it up 30 times. My wife will set it up 30 times, and she can't get in. I'm putting the password in the way you told me. It's just not working. It's not working. Funny. Yeah.
I have a cousin that yesterday, Len, I actually called a computer guy and said, I am going to pay you. You are going to make her phone do what she needs, and you are going to fix her computer, and I will never have to hear her again. Because all I hear every day, and it's an hour a day, I'm trying to fix her stuff.
I know.
Because pandemic, she won't come to my house, and she won't let me in her house, so I can't be in person to fix it. Yeah, I need analog. I am very, because when all of this stuff, you know, poof, doesn't work, we got to go back to the phone on the wall in the kitchen. We have to.
I think you're right. I think, you know, of course, the two of us are like sounding like the curmudgeons of the world.
Yes, absolutely.
But I agree with you because I think we need to have some kind of a backup. There is no backup to the digital. Like when the internet goes down, you're pretty much screwed and you can't do anything because, you know, half the time your phone even, like we're doing this over FaceTime, but half the time you can't even make a phone call on these phones. $1,100 on a phone. It can do everything. It's got more memory than anything you ever had as a kid growing up. And the one thing you needed to do, it doesn't do.
I remember a tour of the Intrepid in New York City. And we were with the Boy Scouts at the time. And the man who was giving the tour said to the children, you know, hold up your iPod. It was an iPod at the time. He said, there's more technology in your hand than we had during World War I, World War II, the Korean War. And it's like, whoa. And guess what? They did okay. Yeah, they did just fine.
And now you're on mute. You're on mute. This is what it is. Get off mute for crying out loud. We can't even figure. Which I think it's technology is a wonderful thing when it works, as we said. Yes. It's also great. Social media is great. You know,
I don't do that either.
Well, I noticed that you're on LinkedIn, but you're not on any of the things. And I give you a lot of credit for that because it is. Half the time it's a waste of time, and the other half is kind of you got like a quarter that it's really good. It's good for a lot of things. Like if somebody, you know, God forbid, has an accident or injury that they need to raise money for, people are always right on the scene, and they start with the GoFundMe and whatever. And that's kind of nice to be able to do that. Or if you know, because these parents have to sell their kids crap, they go online and they got to sell the cookie.
Absolutely.
Here's my thing with the Girl Scout cookies. And again, I have nothing against Girl Scout cookies. I love them. I could use a few boxes of Thin Mints, to be honest with you. But I could probably get away from that because I could afford to lose a few pounds. But anyway, I just find it interesting that the girls are supposed to be selling it. Have you ever? Do you see Girl Scouts out there selling it? Only at the grocery store once in a while you'll see them standing there. But the mom, there's an episode of Everybody Loves Raymond where they had a show ever. Oh, absolutely. They had an episode where Ray and his nemesis, and they go at it, and she pushes down his table, and they're outside trying to get the best spot, and she sells to his parents, and it's just like a whole thing. Great. But it's the parents selling to the kids.
It is.
And I find it interesting. I made a comment that I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel like anybody like 35 to 55 right now who are parents, seem to, and I said this out loud to my father-in-law, that I think we are the worst parents of any generation because we are helicopter, we're on top of our kids. But my
Absolutely.
father-in-law brought up a very good point. He's 92 years old.
Okay.
So he has seen everything. He actually says that his generation, the way they parented, started the trend. Like it started because you always wanted better for your kids.
Sure.
Then you had it, which
Right.
we really shouldn't. You should just basically, they should be able to do a little bit better, but I think we go way above and beyond the Call of Duty.
We don't want to talk about my credit card bill that my kids have my credit card.
Yeah.
That they buy everything. They're like, "Oh, I found this and it wasn't that expensive." I'm like, "It's my money."
Yes. Well, I gave my kids an Amex that is tied to our account, and they use it, and then I give them the bill. So my son, who's now 20, he pays me every month. My daughter's just starting to learn at 17 that it's not like just because she has the card doesn't think that it's automatically magically, yes. Well, I use the card, Dad. I
just showed my 17-year-old his $538 bill. I'm like, "Do you know how many times you went and got coffee?
Yeah.
Do you have any idea?"
I know, and at $4.50 a clip, with the coffee already. It's
crazy.
The pricing.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
We are helicopter parents. It just, you need to just. I wish that I wasn't, but because I'm home all day, especially, I got nothing else to do.
No, I know, and we try to do our best, and kids are the only thing. I mean, if you think about it, the only thing that doesn't come with a manual. There's a lot of books that are written, but there's no manual. Everything else, I mean, there's directions on the shampoo bottle that says wet hair, lather, and rinse, repeat if necessary, right? Sure. That's actually on the shampoo bottle, but we don't have directions on children. But I think it's just become, everybody says, well, you could read all these books. You ever notice that a lot of these books are just people that have a PhD but don't have children?
Yeah, totally.
Until you're wiping snot off a kid's nose, I don't want to hear from you. I don't want to hear from you.
It's so true.
Yeah, you have no idea.
And very true.
And we talked about social media, and one of the things that I just saw, I don't know if you saw this, but Mets player Pete Alonso has decided now that he's getting off social media.
It's awesome.
I think it's great. I think we see too much of everything.
Right.
But
that's what made radio great.
Yeah.
You know why? You could think whatever you wanted about that person behind the microphone. Heck, I was hoping everybody thought I was blonde and buxom. I'm like, "Hey, yeah, I'm Christina Lang. You can imagine what I look like." And that was at the time. And that's what made the mystery of radio so alluring. And I am a radio geek from the time from New York City, 77 WABC, sitting on my parents' bedroom floor, listening to their little, transistor in their bedroom and just sitting there listening to the radio and wondering, where are these guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's smoke and mirrors, but we didn't know that.
No. I mean, Harry Harrison was your morning mayor, and you had all this other, like Dan London, Ron Lundy.
That's the thing. And now you know what everyone looks like. You know what they do. You're right. And it's great for that Mets player to say, "You know what? I'm stepping down for a little bit."
He said he wants to spend every second soaking up every single day because every single new day is a blessing. And he feels like, especially in the wake of what's happened in the last year, that he feels like it's a good time for him to step away from Twitter, Instagram, and nothing to do. Of course, Steve Cohen with the whole stock market thing and he's getting off, the owner of the Mets. And I think that it's almost like everything is almost too much information. Like I always bring this up. I love to go to restaurants, and especially your favorite ones. And we're starting to go back. I mean, in Kentucky, we can go to the restaurant. You put your mask on when you get in, which you sit down at the table. You don't, which doesn't make any sense. But all right, I'm doing whatever you ask me to do.
Right.
But anyway, you go to the restaurant. Do you really want to know what's happening in the kitchen? Do you
want to know about that 5-second rule?
No, I don't want to know about it because when you know, the more information you know, it's going to make you not want to go back. Everybody is filled with information now. You go online, you can find out anything, and people they sit behind that damn computer, and they give ratings or reviews, which I did an episode on surveys. I can't stand those things. I went to White Castles for crying out loud. I'm not giving you 5 stars. It is what it is. We know what it is, okay?
Exactly.
I mean, that's the point. But too much information on this stuff, is getting to the point where we don't need to know every little detail.
No.
We don't want to know how the sauce is made. I just want to eat it.
Yeah.
Tina,
There was
I
an
just want to eat
interview
it.
with David Bowie back when even computers started. And David Bowie just started saying how dangerous it was for our society to have all of this information so easily accessible. And it definitely has a negative impact and a positive impact.
It does. And I think that, I talk about this all the time. People share too much information. I did an episode last week on medical information. Like, we're actually putting pictures of ourselves in a hospital gown and the surgery and the x-rays on social media. And everybody's getting their COVID vaccine and they're putting the card online. And I'm hearing stories of people that, you could get your identity stolen because of this whole.
Sure, of course.
Yeah, and they don't. It's funny because the doctors are supposed to. They have that HIPAA law. They can't share the information, but apparently the patients don't care. They share it. Right. They share it themselves.
So I do. I have to confess. I have Snapchat.
Yeah.
Just to try to communicate with the children. And yesterday, my dog. I have a brand new puppy, and she found something out in the yard, and I went out to look. Len, it was the leg of a turkey vulture that she was chomping on. That made the best social media picture in the world. It was nauseating. I mean, you saw the fur, the tendons that were attached. You see the claw, and it sparked such a, conversation. What is that? What is going on? So that's fun.
Yeah.
But I don't use it too much, and I only use it for when something is fun.
See, I'm amazed at the Snapchat. I feel like Bill Belichick sometimes. What's with the snap face or the whatever? I don't even know what half of this stuff is. When I do the show, I'm on like Stitcher and all these avenues that you can listen to the show, and I don't half of them. I don't even know what they are. It's just, and I find myself to be. I've embraced technology to a point. I go kicking and screaming sometimes. I remember when CDs came out. I was like, I don't want to go to CDs. I'm not going to, no. And then I went kicking and screaming. And then the same thing happened when MP3s came out. Do you remember the MP3 world where they changed everything? Well, you fell asleep there, and I'm going to bring you up to speed on this. So in the in the late 90s, they came up with, they started with the early 2000s, actually. They started out with digital files, and then it became where Apple invented in like 2006, 7, I think they did the iPod. And then the iPod. And I was like, I'm not getting an iPod. I don't. And Microsoft came out with a Zoom. And I remember getting my kids like an off make of the Zoom just so they could hear music. Because again, back then nobody was, they were putting the music on. You could buy songs from Walmart, whatever, and they were doing it. And that's before Apple just kind of, the whole iTunes world just came on. But I was like kicking and screaming to that. Now, of course, I've got, an iPhone, I've got an iPad, a MacBook, and I'm all Apple. I'm in the, I'm smoking, the crack, the Apple crack,
I get it.
But what I like about it is, what's nice is if you write something on your phone in the notes, it comes up on your iPad, and any kind of articles that I want to look at, I can see it on different devices, which is kind of cool. That makes for technology, again, using it smart and using it. But too much of it, we don't need to know every little detail of everybody's life and what they're eating for dinner. And my
favorite line is, "It's the phone's fault."
Yes.
And I see a lot with the kids, and I'm like, it's the phone's fault. There's no two ways about it. It is the phone's fault.
Well, who would have thought that the phone would need a camera, and now 3 cameras? I mean, did you really think you would need a camera? Like, it does come in handy, but who would have thought to put those two things together?
Right. Listen, all I know is I don't want that many photos of me in my lifetime. My wedding photos were too many photos of me all in one sitting. How these kids take pictures of themselves constantly, I don't want to see my image that much.
No, the selfie world is too much.
Yeah.
I always like to say, no pictures, no evidence. I don't want to be, if I'm at somewhere, like perfect example, John, myself, Tina, Joe Nolan, all these people, we'd go on these trips, and the only picture I have is us at Niagara Falls with the Maiden of the Mist with our windbreakers on, or whatever that. That's the only picture I have. Or I have a picture of just it was a great day. You're wearing it's a to look at it in June or something like that, and you got a picture by the falls. Like that's the only picture I have. We don't have any pictures at the bars. We didn't check in anywhere. We weren't able to do that. It's just that was just fun times. And I don't know if you saw this, but Lady Gaga just recently, her French bulldogs. Did you see this? And apparently, the person that was walking the dogs got shot, but she got the dogs back.
Automatic pistol.
Yeah, what's going on with that? The dogs apparently were returned on Friday night at 6 o'clock.
It's the phone's fault, Len.
Yeah, see, there you go.
I'm telling you.
Well, they probably know. They probably know where she's going in every moment. Everybody is just like. We also feel like we're closer to celebrities now. I will admit, I follow a bunch on Twitter and Instagram, and you actually think you're friends with them when they respond to you. And it's kind of crazy. I know. I always like Maureen McCormick, Marsha Brady.
Yeah, sure, Marsha.
I follow her, and I'll say something, and she'll respond. I wished her happy Valentine's Day. She comes back, she says, "You too." I'm like, "Oh my God, Marsha's my friend." And I've had people on, and it's like, hopefully Marsha will do the show, Marie McCormick, but we're holding out hope that she comes on Len's Burning Bush. But I just find it interesting that we think everybody's your friend, and we're on social media, but that's what it is now. You're just looking for anything to make you feel better. Hence why I started this whole show.
Okay, see, there it works.
It gives me something to look forward to on Saturday. I get to sit here and see you on a Saturday morning and have a conversation like we're back in the back in the day. Well, yeah, right. It's
before we caught the old.
Yeah. That's a thing. Unfortunately, that I don't. One thing that people say, they say, well, you're middle aged. I go, what am I going to live to 104? I mean, that's not middle age. I'm pretty much a quarter to dead. Is what I like to say. It's a terrible thing to think about. But as I get up 3-4 times in the middle of the night, then that's kind of where it's the old. What's funny though, you probably have do this as well. You look in the mirror, you're like, oh my God, what happened, right? But it's like my mind and everything when I think about it, and if I don't look at myself, I think I'm the same, just kid,
Totally. And the best part is my husband's eyesight is going,
Oh.
so it's awesome. So he can't really, if we're close up, he really can't see all the wrinkles. And I'm like, all right.
That's wonderful. See, but again, he doesn't care. We don't care. I always find it interesting, and I'm going to have on a TV anchor next week, Cherie Palello, who's in Cincinnati. We had a discussion about this, just kind of talking about the fact that it's just such a double standard that the women have to be all this and wear this, all this stuff, and the guys look like hell. It's okay.
That's why, Len, I got into radio.
Yeah. I always like to say I have a face for radio. And that is why I'm doing this on the radio, not on the video. Although everybody keeps saying, Len, you got to do this on the video too. And I'm like, you know what? I like to keep this with the radio. They can hear me and maybe they could see certain things, but I don't know. I'm kind of the one that's going kicking and screaming to this, even though I probably should embrace it. I'm holding out. Hold out. One thing we don't have to hold out for anymore is Punky Brewster is back.
I saw.
Soleil Mon Fry is back. And apparently you could stream it on Peacock now, which another damn streaming service. I have 100 of these streaming services.
I know, but Peacock does have Beavis and Butthead coming back in movie form. So, there's some things you got to pay for. Some things.
I guess, but I feel like I pay for everything, and enough already. I already have HBO Max. I've got Hulu, Netflix. I've got all this other stuff. I pay for Dish. I got, at what point does it get a little bit ridiculous? Now I got to go, if I want Punky Brewster, now I got to go to get this Peacock channel now.
Right. Well, we can all go out again. Maybe we can find instead of a sports bar, maybe we can find a streaming bar where on each TV they have a different service that you can watch whatever you want in that place.
That's brilliant.
So you don't have to pay for it.
That's brilliant. I think that would be, it's kind of like the way they used to do with the sports bars, and they'd put the Sunday ticket games on. That's right. You're brilliant.
See, we could go down the street.
We just call it streaming. And then you can order your drinks, your food, and you could sit there and
watch your shows.
Watch your shows, like the old people used to do. I got to watch my stories.
Yeah, my story, my program. Right.
You remember that? Got to watch the program. Oh my goodness.
That was my household, absolutely.
Oh, this is so much fun. We could do this all the time, but unfortunately, you're going somewhere, which is good. You're getting out of the city.
I will bring the pandemic to life for just a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have to go visit my brother, who is a diabetic. He got diabetes back about 10 or 12 years ago from a cut that he got at work, got infected, and then when he went to the hospital, he got MRSA. MRSA, you need super antibiotics. They killed his kidneys. So here he is on dialysis 3 days a week for the last 12 years. Now he's at dialysis. He gets COVID at dialysis. I mean, they're sitting in a room together for how many hours? The guy was so deathly ill that he finally collapsed. It wasn't even he didn't even tell anybody how ill he was, and he collapsed. Ambulance came. He had to go to the hospital, immediately intubated in a coma for over a month. During that time, they lost him almost twice. They were going to give him the tracheotomy because they wanted to take the tube out, but they needed the oxygen in, and they wanted to do it differently. They say now he had a heart attack during the time he was in the coma. When I tell you, for most of us, this COVID is just something that is a bit of a pain. And for myself, I am and I have to say, I have been not very serious about it at all. Because I think in my head that if it's something that I get, I will be very, very sick, but I'm sure that I'll make it through. But there are people that won't.
Right.
So I'm going to visit my brother in Florida. He came out of the coma, and he's having some issues trying to remember things. So I thought that maybe if I went, then he could, jar a memory or two. So you have to remember that all this that everybody is doing, honestly, you have to do it for other people. And it seems like I'm like, I don't even want the vaccine. I don't care if, I know it's supposed to be a herd immunity, and I know I'm supposed to do it for everybody else. But I work out of the house. I don't go anywhere. I'm like, I'm fine. But it's a bummer, but it is what we live in now.
No,
So
and people, right, and people are dying of it, and it's your brother. I hope everything works out well, and may he get better, because it's not fun, and the COVID thing is scary. My father-in-law got his shot, and it's one of those things where you don't really think about it. Like you said, if it doesn't affect you, you don't think about it. But there's so many people there's so many people that are affected. So like I say, I'm all for it. I'll get the vaccine when I can get it, and I wear the mask. I do whatever I'm supposed to do.
That's right.
I try to be that good person, but not everybody, feels the same way. But it is what it is. Everybody's got their own opinion on what it is. But anyway,
it all goes back.
You and your family stay safe. I love you guys, and it was great to see John as well. I got to see if John will come on as well. We'll get him to do a show as well. Now, you can like Len's Burning Bush on Facebook at Len's Burning Bush. And you can follow at Len's Burning Bush on Twitter. As I mentioned, you can listen on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Podbean, iHeartRadio, TuneIn. You can ask Alexa. Do you know how to do that?
That I love.
That you can do. You can ask Alexa to play Len's Burning Bush.
Okay.
And she'll play the latest episode. But be careful when you're playing it back, because I played back an episode that I said that. Ask Alexa to play Len's Burning Bush, and she started to play. Again. Yeah, it started while I was in the middle of my TV watching. All of a sudden, it started to play. Yeah, Len's Burning Bush on Amazon. We're in 32 states, the District of Columbia, plus some downloads. The UK. Everybody, I have somebody that listens every week in the UK, Ireland, Germany, Switzerland, Norway, France, Mexico, Japan, and Canada. But thanks for listening. Thanks to you, Christina Lang, because you are a treasure. And keep being the analog world, because I'm with you. I think we need to have a little analog, a little bit of analog, a little bit of everything.
I'll keep my AOL because it stands for NOL.
I love it.
I will keep it.
I love it. The AOL email. Yeah, I still have the disc, I think, that they sent me back in 1998. Well, thanks to Tina Lang. I'm Len Harvey. We'll be back with another episode of Len's Burning Bush next week. So long.